Hello students, welcome in today's lecture. We are discussing our topic biological classification from Bio 1, and in last lecture, after this last lecture we have finished all the contents of this topic biological classification, but some parts are remaining of the previous lecture, and that we are discussing about the lichens, viruses, virions and the prions. So the last part that we have discussed, that is the prion, will be continued here. That is these prions, which means we have seen that these prions are the organisms. These prions are the organisms which are smaller than the viruses. These prions, even though they are smaller than the viruses, they are having the only protein molecules, or they contain only the protein substances, but the genetic material, whether it is RNA or DNA, it is absent in this prion. So prion is the thing that it do not have any genetic material. Okay, but as they are smaller in viruses, do not have genetic material, their body is made up of only the protein particle. It causes the two important diseases, and those diseases we have discussed that in the animal, or in particularly the cow, the disease is called as BSE disease. BSE stands for bovine spongiform encephalopathy. Bovine spongiform encephalopathy. The another name of this disease is the mad cow disease, or cow mad disease. So mad cow disease, and in particularly human, it causes the disease CJD, that is Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. So what is important to it here, that we have seen that these prions has the two type of diseases. Particularly in cow, it causes bovine spongiform encephalopathy disease, which is another name as cow's mad disease, or the second one is the Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. So here the first disease, why the another name for this disease is mad cow disease, because see here the cow which has infection to this prion, and due to which the disease developed in that cow has a trouble to stand or to walk. Okay, the cowला व्यवस्थित उठता येत नाही, चालता येत नाही. इट बिकम्स नर्वस और समटाइम्स व्हायलेंट. ती काही वेळा नर्वस होते, काही वेळा अग्रेसिव्ह होते, व्हायलेंट होते. सो this character makes the cow mad, and that's what is called as the mad cow disease. म्हणजे हे वेडसरपणाचे लक्षण आपल्याला पाहायला मिळतं की एखादा वेडसर व्यक्ती जो असतो, मॅड जो पर्सन असतो, इट समटाइम्स बिकम नर्वस, इट समटाइम्स बिकम्स aggressive, while it cannot walk properly, cannot stand properly, cannot carry out its work properly. Such symptoms can be found in such a cow which has infection of this prion, and that's why the disease called as the mad cow disease. Okay. Then second one is the CJD, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. In short, we call as a CRJD disease. What is this disease? This disease is also found in the human being, where the brain cells of the human being get affected and it develop the disease that is called as the CJD disease. So student, see here, up to this from the NCERT we have seen, but one more thing you should know about the prion is that these prions are the proteinous molecule, and they mainly affect the brain cell. That's why we call it as they are responsible for the neurological diseases. See here what they carry out in our brain cell. So you should know that the cells which are present in the brain are called as the neurons, or the nervous cells, and these nervous cells or the neurons which form our brain tissue. So these neurons or the nervous cells, get damaged by this prions. So prions firstly affects the neurons cell. It affects all the part of neurons, and that's why that neurons get damaged and the disease occur in our brain cell, that is due to this prion. So student, see here, we have completed the topic biological classification, and here the important point is that how we have studied this topic. So again I will remind you that this topic is very important for NEET point of view, because if you see from first to last at the first content, while studying the five kingdom system of the classification, you have to keep in mind the different examples of each kingdom, and that's why we are given the important tricks at every place while studying this kingdom. The later part of this topic includes the virus, virions, lichens, prions. This part is also important because it is slightly different from this five kingdom, but it is also interesting. If you see the topic thoroughly from first to last, you will observe that it is very interesting point, because what we have seen in this topic, that at the starting of this topic we are given one table, and in that table we have classified all the five kingdoms in a very short way. So for study of this topic you should first prepare that table very well, because I have told you that the table is very important for the MCQ point of view. Next to table we have seen in detail the five kingdom. First kingdom is kingdom Monera. In that we have seen the example, or the sole example of this kingdom Monera is the bacteria, and for that we have studied the Archaebacteria and Eubacteria. For NEET point of view, the question is always asked on this Archaebacteria, because we have seen these Archaebacteria are found everywhere where other living organism is generally not found, and in that we have seen that they are thermoacidophile, they are halophils, they are methanogens. For that the question is definitely asked from this Archaebacteria. From Eubacteria, we have seen that majority of the bacteria are of the Eubacteria type. Majority of them are the heterotrophs. In that we have seen the example of the blue-green algae, that is Cyanobacteria. And then we have seen the other examples of these Eubacteria, which are also useful to the human being, and some harmful bacteria of the Eubacteria category. So again read it carefully. What is Eubacteria? How the example of the Cyanobacteria included in heterotroph, which are the examples of the heterotroph. When you read it carefully, you will get idea about this kingdom Monera. So kingdom Monera is that class of the bacteria where you and Archaebacteria can study very well. So first you study very well the kingdom Monera. Then after the studying of the kingdom Monera, you see the questions asked for NEET exam in the previous exam paper. Then you will get idea that how to study this kingdom Monera. And again I will say that is the NCERT reading is very very important for the NEET point of view, because all the lecture that we are going to conduct here is mainly based on this NCERT book. So this kingdom Monera is very important. Then next we have seen that kingdom Protista. We have seen that kingdom Protista again include the division. These are the chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, slime mold, and again we have seen the example of sporozoans, protozoans. We have seen the example of each. Okay. Then next to it we have seen kingdom fungi. Comparative to kingdom Monera and Protista, kingdom fungi is very deep, because we have seen the different type of vegetative, asexual, sexual reproduction method in this kingdom fungi. We have seen that this kingdom fungi are again divided into groups: Phycomycetes, Ascomycetes, Basidiomycetes, Deuteromycetes. Again we have seen the examples of the Ascomycetes, then Phyco, Basido, Deuteromycetes, and it is very difficult to student that how to memorize the examples of these groups of the fungi. It is not easy, because you can generally, if the question is asked that give the examples of fungi, you can easily give the example of fungi like the mushroom, mucor, rhizopus. Okay, but particular groups example if asked, then you cannot give easily answer to that. That's why trick is very very important, and you should first understand the trick, and then you will easily understand the example. So from this kingdom fungi is very important because it is confusable, but you can, if study the properly this kingdom fungi, then it is very easy to study it very well. So focus this kingdom fungi, study it properly by the trick, then you can understand the questions asked on this kingdom. Because if you see the questions from the previous exams which is asked for the NEET exam, you will see that all the questions are based on the examples. So if any question is asked on the fungi kingdom or the Monera or the Protista, the question is mainly focus on the example. So straightforward question will be not asked. Question will be asked on the example. So examples are very important for the kingdom fungi. Then the kingdom Plantae, because we have seen that in detail we have to study the separate topic kingdom Plantae, but some points are given in this biological classification under this kingdom Plantae, that some examples are there. For example, bladderwort, Venus flytrap, cuscata. These are the exceptions of the plant which are not heterotrophic, but they are included in a category called as a heterotrophic. Next one is that in the kingdom Plantae, we have seen that cellulose is the main component of the cell wall, because cell wall is a unique characteristics of the plant cell. Okay, so it is not difficult to understand the kingdom Plantae because only 2 to 3 lines are given there. We have also seen that this life cycle of the plant has 2 important stages. One stage is called as a gametophyte stage and another stage is called as the sporophyte stage. Okay, the duration of these 2 stages are different, and what is gametophyte, what is sporophyte, that we'll discuss in detail in this chapter kingdom Plantae. And the last part we have seen from this 5 kingdom system of classification, that is the kingdom Animalia. We have to also study the separate topic kingdom Animalia, and that for that purpose kingdom Animalia is also not difficult. We have to study only some important point from this kingdom Animalia, that is they are heterotrophic, eukaryotic, do not have the cell wall, directly or indirectly depend on the plant, have holozoid mode of nutrition. So students, see here, we have here completed this 5 kingdom system of classification, and at last we have discusses the viruses. Here we have seen the 2 diagram, tobacco mosaic virus, and the second diagram is of the bacteriophage. So I have told you that these both diagrams are important for the theory point of view. So you have to practice the diagram for the theory. No doubt, it is not necessary that you have to draw 100% diagram correctly from the textbook, but you should have to complete it up to 60% correct diagram, because examiner have to recognize that whether it is bacteriophage or not. So you have to write or draw the diagram not 100% correct, but up to 60 or 70% correct diagram you have to draw for the exam. Okay. From that viruses, we have seen some of the important characteristics of viruses, the diseases of the viruses in plant and in animal. Okay. Then we have seen the viroids. Very small part of viroids is there because it is developed in the plants. Diner explained these viroids, very small, have the RNA as a genetic material. Lichen we have seen, which is symbiotic association of the algae and fungi. Extra point of this lichen is that importance of lichen we have studied, and the last part of this biological classification is the prion that we have already discussed now. Okay, so here we have completed the biological classification topic from the NCERT, which is the second topic, and that we have completed here. Okay students, so study it properly according to my instruction, then you will not find any difficulty in this topic. And after reading of the each kingdom, you have to see the questions asked on it. Okay, not hurry to complete all the topic and then see the question, but very small bit you read first, and on that small bit which questions are asked, that study first. Okay, and then only you will go further, or you will study the further topic. Okay, see here again I will say that up to 2 or 3 questions are asked for the NEET point of view from this biological classification. Okay, in today's lecture, along with this video, I will send you the remaining notes of this topic. In next video or in tomorrow's video, we will send the MCQ for this topic. If you have the time after completion of the study of this topic, you have to solve this MCQ. Okay, nearly about 90 MCQ will give with this video in the next lecture for the biological classification. Okay, so after this topic, the next topic, which is very interesting as compared to this biological classification and the living world, and it is general topic that you have the base of it in 8, 9, 10 standard, and the topic's name is the cell, the unit of life, which is totally different from this topic because there is no examples, there will be no given any trick to memorize the example because it is based simply on the cell, the structure of the cell, the types of the cell, the study of organelles, the mechanism of the cell, and that's why it is totally different from this biological classification topic. So the next topic that we are going to discuss now is the cell unit of life. I think this is the 8th topic of the NCERT. Cell, the unit of life. Okay, cell, the unit of life. This is our next topic. Here, now we have to discuss some important things of it. First, we will see that is what is mean by cell. See here, students, unit of life. Very interesting part that we are going to discuss. Okay, in our introductory part of our first lecture from 11th standard, we have seen some of the part of this cell. So first, we'll study in today's lecture this topic in the 3 points: cell, what is cell, cell theory, and the structure of cell. So first point is the cell. Here one question is that what is it? What is it which differentiate the living cell from the non-living cell? What is it which differentiate the living cell from the non-living cell? Or what is the main difference that we can study that it is living and it is non-living? The answer to that question is that when we say that it is a living thing, then that living thing is made up of the cell. And when we say that it is non-living thing, then that non-living thing is not made up of cell. So if any organism say living, then definitely it is made up of the cell. And if we say it is non-living, then it is not made up of the cell. So this cell is an important component of the living organism. This cell is important component of the living organism. That's why we call it as it is a unit of life. Because we know that in our previous chapter, biological classification, also we have seen that some living organisms are made up of only one cell. And and those organisms we call it as a unicellular organism, while the some organisms are made up of many cells like us, which is called as the multicellular organisms. Okay, we have seen that the body of living organism is made up of cells. Okay, but not all living organisms are made up of the same type of cells. Some living organisms are there whose body is made up of only one cell. Those organisms we call as a unicellular organism. Some organisms are there like us whose body is made up of many cells. That organisms we call as a multicellular. So from which point we will get here from the cell, that is cell is a part which is distinguished from the living cell to the non-living cell, or the living organism from the non-living organism, because living cell has a body, or living organism is made up of the cell, and that's why we call it as a living organism. It is the first thing. Some living organisms are made up of the single cell, that we call as a unicellular, and some organisms are made up of the many cells, that we call as a multicellular. Okay, now here what we have to see? We have to see what is actually a cell. Okay, here we have seen cell means the unicellular and multicellular cells are found. Now the next thing is, what is cell? What is cell? That means here just we have seen the unicellular organism. You are well known about the examples of unicellular organisms, because in biological classification we have seen the unicellular organisms. Okay, which are the examples of these unicellular organisms? There are two examples are given. Number of examples are there, but the examples that you know are the yeast, amoeba, yeast, amoeba. These are the unicellular organisms. Okay, even though their body is made up of only one cell, that single cell is able to the independent existence. And second one is, it perform all the activities. Second one is perform all activities. Okay, see here students, we have seen that multicellular organism, no doubt their body is made up of many cells. That's why they have complex structure. But see here, these unicellular organism, even though their body is made up of single cell, by this single cell they have independent existence, means they do not depend on the other organism. All their life depends on that single cell, that is called as an independent existence. And second point is that single cell of that amoeba or that yeast perform all the activities of the life. Then what is meant by all the activities of life? That means to survive that particular amoeba or the yeast, they have to get food, that we call as nutrition. So ingestion of food, after ingestion that food get digested, after digestion all the food get distributed by the blood to all parts of the body or all parts of the cell. Then there is another living process that is called as circulation, then excretion, then nervous coordination. That means even though these are the primitive organisms, all the activities which are necessary for the life, which are necessary to survive the organism, that is called as a living process. That means nutrition, circulation, excretion, reproduction, control and coordination. These all activities are performed by that single cell only. So it is called as they perform all activities of the cell, and that single cell is able to exist, survive that particular organism. So it is not necessary that it is made up of the unicellular organism. That's why it is not depend on that. So it will depend on the another organism for its all activities. But that single cell carries all the activities in that organism, even though it is made up of the one cell. And no doubt, multicellular organisms has a division of the labor. They carry out, or group of cells are together perform the different activities or different functions of the cell. So, under the title, what is cell? We have seen that in amoeba or the yeast, they are unicellular organisms. The single cell is able to perform all the activities of the body, and within that single cell, different activities are carried out, due to which that organism is independently exist in environment, independently survive in the environment. The next thing here is that's why we call it as a cell is a basic structural and the functional unit of life, because the functions that is here again you should know that cell, okay, in detail we are going to study the structure of cell in our next lecture. But see here, the thing is that this cell, that means we say that various activities, if we consider our example, we are multicellular organism, the various life processes takes place in our body, like nutrition, we call it ingestion, digestion, then absorption, then circulation, excretion, reproduction, control and coordination. All these activities are carried out at the level of the cell. They are carried out within the cell. So the functional unit of our body is the cell, because all the functions of our body is carried out within the cell. And the body of our body is made up of cell, because number of times we say that the cell form tissues, tissue form organ, organ form system, system form body. So basic unit of our structure is the cell, and basic unit of our function is our body's function is the cell. So cell is the structural and functional unit of our body. The next thing is that one of the scientists whose name is called as the Leeuwenhoek. His name is called as Leeuwenhoek, who first described and studied a living cell. So Leeuwenhoek is the scientist who first described and studied the structure of the cell. Later on, another scientist is there whose name is Robert Brown. Who discovered the nucleus. Later on, another scientist is there whose name is Robert Brown, who discovered the nucleus. So, if the question is asked for need point of view, Leeuwenhoek is responsible for discovery of the cell, and Robert Brown is responsible for the discovery of the nucleus, because these two scientists has great contribution for the study of the cell. See here, now what happened after the discovery of the cell, after the discovery of nucleus, there is an invention of the microscope, okay, and after the invention of microscope, later on there is invention of the electron microscope, and under electron microscope there is a detailed study of the cell is carried out, and now we have a lot of information about the cell, and the information that we have now about the cell is due to the discovery of the electron microscope, contribution of the Leeuwenhoek and contribution of the Robert Brown. Okay, now we will discuss the next point, and that is called as the cell theory. Now actual topic begins from here, that is cell theory. The two scientists are there who propose this cell theory. Now we have to discuss after cell and what is cell, that is cell theory. Okay, see here. The first scientist the name of that scientist is Schleiden, which is the German botanist. Schleiden, which is the German botanist, he studied first the plant body, and he found that the plant is made up of many cells, and all these many cells together form the tissues of the plant. So first statement of the Schleiden, which is the German botanist, about plant is that because he studied plant and made important hypothesis that body of plant is made up of many cells, is made up of many cells. All these cells form the tissues. Okay, this is about the hypothesis of the Schleiden. Now, the next scientist, whose name is called as Schwann, who is the British biologist. Who studied the animal cells and found that the animal cell has the outermost covering, and that covering he called it as the plasma membrane. So he says that animal cell has outermost covering called plasma membrane. That is called as plasma membrane. This Schleiden, which German botanist, whose statement is here, and the Schwann, which is the British biologist. It is British zoologist, not biologist. He is British zoologist. Okay. After the animal cell, he also studied the plant cell. After the animal, he also studied the plant cell, and he said that plant has unique outermost covering, and that is of the cell wall. So, see here, the plasma membrane, which is the outermost covering of the animal cell, and the cell wall, which is the outermost unique covering of the plant cell. These two things was discovered by the scientist Schwann, who is called as a British zoologist. And on this theories, he, that is the Schwann, also says that the bodies of the plants and the animals is made up of the cells. That is, bodies of plants and animals is made up of the cell. So here this cell theory was togetherly put forth by scientists Schleiden and the Schwann. So up to this, what we have seen is very, very important, because the question is asked that who states that the cell wall is the unique characteristics of the plant, or the plasma membrane is the outermost covering of the animal cell. The answer is the Schwann, who is the British zoologist, because this Schwann studied both animal as well as plant. But the Schleiden is a German botanist who studied only plant, and that's why he made the hypothesis that body of the plant is made up of many cells and the all cells together form the tissues. So here we have seen that what is the statement of Schleiden and what is the statement of the Schwann, and by this statement togetherly the Schleiden and Schwann put forth the theory that is called as a cell theory. So if the question is asked that who proposed the cell theory, the answer is that Schleiden and the Schwann. Who says that the cell wall is a unique characteristics of the plant? Answer is the Schwann. Who states that outermost covering in the animal cell is the plasma membrane? Answer is the Schwann. Who states that the body of the plant and the animal is composed of the cell? The answer is the Schwann. Okay, so by this statement they together put forth the cell theory. But one important thing is that the one more another scientist is there whose name is Rudolf Virchow, who modified the cell theory which is given by these two scientists, that is called as the Schleiden and the Schwann. And what is the important thing of this Virchow, that here we are going to discuss. So see here the two important things I have given on the board, that is the Schleiden and the Schwann, where you can see easily that the Schleiden's contribution and the Schwann contribution in the cell theory. Okay, now here the important thing is that even though this cell theory was given by Schleiden and Schwann, the one more drawback is there. They both cannot explain how the new cells are formed. How the new cells are formed, which is not explained by the Schleiden and Schwann, even though they propose the cell theory. Now, very important thing is here that some students has confusion that what is cell theory. Cell theory is nothing but the statements which is given by the Schleiden and Schwann. Which statements are there? First statement is that the plant body is made up of cells and thus different tissues are formed in the plant body. Animal cell has outermost covering called as plasma membrane. Plant cell has outermost covering called as a cell wall, and thus all the plants and the animals are made up of the cell. This is called as the cell theory because we have combined the characteristics of the Schleiden and Schwann in this cell theory. Okay, but one more drawback is there, and we state that the cell theory of Schleiden and Schwann do not explain how the cells are formed. No doubt, they say that the cell is the important part of the body of plant and animal, but they not explain how the cells are formed in the body of the plants and animals. So, one more scientist is there whose name is Rudolf Virchow. Who modified the cell theory. Who modified cell theory, who gave final shape to cell theory. Who gave final shape to cell theory. Then what is the contribution of this Rudolf Virchow? If the question is asked that who modified the cell theory of Schleiden and Schwann, the answer is Rudolf Virchow. Or if the question is that who gave the final shape to the cell theory, the answer is Rudolf Virchow. Then what he did, Rudolf Virchow first shows that every cell is formed from its pre-existing cells, or cells are formed in the body and every cells are formed from its pre-existing cell. So what is the contribution of Rudolf Virchow? Every cell is formed. Every cell is formed from its pre-existing cells, okay, which gives a name, which the scientific name is given by his, that is omnicellular, e-cellular. Okay, it is very interesting that what is the meaning of omnicellular, e-cellular? Omnicellular, e-cellular. The meaning of this sentence is that every cell in the body is formed from the pre-existing cell, which is not given by the Schleiden and Schwann, because you know that if it is the original cell, the cell get divided, and these two cells which are formed from this cell are called as a daughter cell. It is a parent cell. These are the daughter cells. So every cells are formed from its pre-existing cell, and this hypothesis was given by the scientist Virchow. So now the cell theory, which is known to us, include the two important points, and those points are now we will discuss here. So see here what is the contribution of the Rudolf Virchow, and what is the statement given by him, that is called as the omnicellular, e-cellular. Now the theory which is now we have to know, that is all organisms are made up of cells and products of cells. And second, cells arise from its pre-existing cells. So this is about the cell theory, which is modified after the statements of the Virchow, Rudolf Virchow. Okay, so students, see here we have started in this lecture the new topic. The name of that is the cell, unit of life. In this topic, what we have seen, that is we have seen what is meant by cell, that is the cell is the basic unit of the body. Next we have seen that these unicellular organisms like yeast, amoeba is made up of only one cell, and the single cell in that animal perform all the activities of their body. While the multicellular organisms are made up of many cells, there is a division of the labor in that cells, and all the activities of the body is carried out by these many cells. Leeuwenhoek was the first scientist who described the cell, identified the cell. Robert Brown was the scientist who discovered the nucleus. Then we also seen that the cell theory, there are two scientists, the Schleiden, which is the German botanist who studied the plant cell and made contribution that plant cell is made up of cell and different tissues are formed from the cell in the plant. Schwann, which is the British zoologist who studied both plant as well as animal. From the animal study, he said that animal has outermost covering, that is called as animal cells outermost covering, plasma membrane, and plant has unique characteristics, that is called as a cell wall, which is outermost covering. And by this he states that both plants and animals' body is made up of the cell and the products of cell. Cell and the products of cell means from this cell different products are formed, which is called as the products of the cell. But the cell theory, which is proposed by Schleiden and Schwann, do not clearly explain how the new cells are formed, and it can be explained by another scientist whose name is Rudolf Virchow, who first explained that the new cells are formed from its pre-existing cell, from its previous cell, that he has given the term omnicellular, e-cellular. So he modified the cell theory of Schleiden and Schwann. He gave the final shape to the Schleiden and Schwann theory, And he gives the two important points that the body of every living organism is made up of cell and its productor, and second thing is that new cells are formed from its pre-existing cell. Okay students, so here we stop, and the next part of this cell unit of life we discuss in the next lecture. Thank you very much.